the media controls the government because the public, I said is stupid, but really is just misinformed, and for some reason still broadly thinks that what the media says is true, and in many cases that's not correct. And it's because the media have an agenda. They are not happy with Brexit. They are not happy with how things have gone. And if they can find something they can pin on Brexit to gin up antithetical sentiment against it, they're going to do that. And so let's go back about, 3 or 4 days now, to this just little report by the Shropshire Star. And this is reasonable reporting. This is local news reporting things in a responsible manner that's not going to make people feel like the world is ending, right? So as they say here, the drivers are being urged by the government to buy fuel as normal after lorry driver shortage hit supplies. So BP said that a handful of its filling stations are closed due to a lack of fuel, and Esso owner ExxonMobil also said that a small number of its Tesco Alliance petrol forecourts have been impacted. So this is not a big problem, right? It's not a big problem. And a government spokesman said there is no shortage of fuel in the UK. People should continue to buy fuel as normal. If that petrol station doesn't have any, just go to the next one. That will have some. They say, we recognise the challenges facing the industry and have already taken action to increase the supply of HGV drivers, including streamlining the process for new drivers and increasing the number of driving tests. Now, that's the right thing to do, right? Streamline the process to allow people to qualify as being a HGV driver and increase the number of tests so you can recruit more people because, of course, the wages in this industry are going up, which is good for the drivers themselves, and this is not a big deal. Yes, the shortage is caused by the lack of foreign labour, but the correct action here is one that we're starting to take. Recruit more of our own. We can get people to drive lorries. That's fine. And we should. They say, we'll closely monitor labour supply and work with the sector leaders, blah, blah, blah. Everything's fine. BP's head of retail, though. And I wonder how much of this is about, the petrol companies having an incentive to do this, right? Hannah Hofer said that it was important for the government to understand the urgency of the situation, which she described as bad, very bad, according to a report by ITV News. But it's not, very bad. It's just slightly bad. Nothing to be panicking about, nothing to worry about. It's not the end of the world. The country isn't collapsing. Calm down, right? And this is what ExxonMobil said, actually, weirdly enough. They're like, look, a small number of our 200 Tesco Alliance retail sites are impacted. Very small. A Tesco spokesman said, we have a good availability of fuel, with deliveries arriving at our petrol filling stations across the UK every day. That's a responsible thing to say. The BP spokesman saying, oh no, things are bad, very bad, very bad. Are they, though? From whose perspective? So anyway, so this small issue again has hit supermarkets with shelves being half full and grocers forced to increase salaries and introduce signing on bonuses to fill gaps. Oh no, how terrible. So instead of 3 different kinds of cucumber, I only have 2 different kinds of cucumber, and the people filling the shelves are being paid more. I mean, have you seen any shortages around in our area?
When we were driving back, I think we saw some petrol stations that had stopped.
Right.
That's because of the panic buying.
Yes.
But it reminds me of the pandemic, just when occasionally you go into the shop and there was
toilet paper, quick, buy toilet paper, but there's no shortage of toilet paper.
Yeah, the shortage is caused by consumer activity, not
yes.
by any kind of supply problem.
Yeah, so naturally the media ran with this, like the lunatics that they are. Let's have a look at the Daily Mail's reporting. Block caps in the headline, which shows that they're really taking this in a responsible manner. UK needs nearly 2 million workers. Oh, God. UK job advert numbers have reached the highest figure in at least a year, with almost 2 million positions currently being offered. Okay. So they complain that basically this has gone up by 220,000 to 1.9 million. And according to the figures, there are 36,000 new adverts for chefs, sales assistants, and 6,000 bar staff, and 7,500 job adverts for HGV drivers. Some offer salaries of upward of 50 grand a year. Good. That's great. The Road Haulage Association estimates the UK was short of 100,000 HGV drivers. So why did they only put up 7,500 job adverts? Never mind. Anyway, so Brexit and COVID are among the major reasons put forward by transport groups and ministers for the shortage, which has sparked chaos for the UK's transport industry. It's not chaos, it's just delays. Things are being delayed. That's it. Tony Wilson, the director for the Institute of Employment Studies, says, we estimate there is about a million fewer people in the labour market now than there were before the crisis began, and probably about a quarter of that is explained by lower migration, and that's mainly lower immigration since the pandemic rather than higher emigration. Well, that's not bad for the native workers of the country, is it? This is all good news for you. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, my brother used to be a chef, for example, and he ended up having to leave because of the pandemic, got a different job elsewhere. And then, well, he could go back to it, but the pay wasn't worth it. So,
Yeah. Why would he? But the thing is, they're going to keep raising the pay until it is worth it. Anyway. And they point out that, transport firms are offering huge salaries. Now, don't get me wrong, this is bad for the smaller transport firms who perhaps can't afford these huge salaries. Fair enough. But it's good for the individual drivers, and that's what I think is very important. And as we talked about the other day, did we talk about it or did we just see it? Apparently, one firm in Lincolnshire, a vegetable firm, is advertising broccoli picker roles for £30 an hour, which is 62 grand a year to pick broccoli.
Do they need any weekend staff?
No. No, they don't, Callum. I need you for the podcast, and I'm not paying you more. Yeah. Oh, if you want to sign up, I can pay him more, but I'm not going to. Anyway, so Sky News decided to stoke the fire here. Again, petrol driver shortage. Situation will get worse before it gets better. Thanks, Sky. It doesn't have to be worse at all. The situation isn't particularly bad. And so obviously the police were like, well, look, just please be sensible. You don't have to go nuts and start filling up jerry cans full of fuel. This isn't the war. We're not, collapsing. Everything's fine. But of course, because the media had been ginning this up, drivers are facing long queues at petrol stations for the second day. UK has short tens of thousands of drivers due to the Brexit and coronavirus pandemic. The government insists there's not a fuel shortage, but there have been signs of panic buying. Yeah, I wonder why. Like wall to wall. By the way, fuel shortage in the media. Wall to wall, fuel shortage. People are going, oh God, I'm going to have to go panic buy. Because these people are liars. Again, there is no fuel shortage. That's not what's happening. They're not telling you the truth when they say this. But Sky News understands that Boris Johnson has allowed ministers to relax immigration rules to tackle the HGV driver shortage. That's the shortage. So the framing of this is dishonest, in my opinion. But in some, apparently 400 petrol stations had introduced a £30 limit on fuel due to unprecedented customer demand. That's the reason. Unprecedented customer demand. And it's not unreasonable for them to say, well, look, just don't buy more than 30 quid at a time. There's no need. You don't need it. That's fine. It's a tank's worth of fuel. You'll be fine. But anyway, after causing this artificial catastrophe, the BBC decides to make light of it. And this was just the best joke that anyone can come up with. Oh, can anyone fill McCann up with petrol? Ha ha. BBC journalist Phil McCann had to go and report on the petrol shortage, and this was everywhere. They loved this. This was the funniest thing in the world. It's like, right, so you've created an artificial problem, and now you're just laughing at everyone because of it. Thanks. And it was
not a bad joke, but
it's not a bad joke.
I half wonder if he's like a cleaner or something. They were like, nah, you've got to do this, mate.
Sure, it's not a bad joke, but there's no need for any of this, right? And it was ITV that had to come out. Believe it or not, I couldn't believe it was ITV of all places that had to come out and do some responsible coverage, saying, well, look, BP said that 20 out of its 1,200 petrol forecourts were closed due to a lack of fuel. 20 out of 1,200. This is not a problem, right? So the situation, of course, was made worse by the long queues because of panic buying, because of what the media had been telling them, that there was a fuel shortage when there wasn't. And so they have to be like, is there a shortage of fuel in the UK? There's no shortage of petrol and diesel in the UK. The shortage at petrol stations is caused by issues with transporting fuel from distribution terminals to forecourts. That's it. You just have to wait. Some of them will have to wait a couple of days until they get refilled. That's it. So anyway, moving on to the next one, right? The drivers themselves, of course, again, ITV, the one outlet that's actually done some responsible reporting on this, it seems, apart from the local ones. This one Plymouth driver been like, there's no fuel shortage. Stop panic buying. Please stop. But this is something that has been demanded for quite some time. As you can see, 2 months ago, reported by The Guardian, the UK's biggest lobby group, business lobby group, has called on the government to relax post-Brexit immigration rules to help companies struggling with staff shortages to hire more workers from overseas. The Confederation of British Industry has said the government needs to immediately update its shortage occupations lists to include several areas where employees are finding it difficult to recruit staff, including butchers, bricklayers and welders. Well, I'm sorry, but that is actually entirely the point of Brexit, wasn't it? In my opinion, when it comes to the question of immigration, right? When people are like, oh, they're coming here and taking their jobs. Yeah, that's what this is. And then you're like, yeah, but we can't find the staff to fill these jobs. Well, then train them. That was the point. You offer, I don't know, apprenticeships, whatever qualifications you need.
This isn't a shock either.
No, absolutely not. That was the point of it. That was what people wanted. Like, but obviously you've got massive big business lobbying of the government saying, well, hang on a second, this is going to hit our profits. It's like, good. That's what I want. I want I want that to be this kind of, natural market restructuring. This is not like some artificial hand coming in and be like, right, we're just going to steal from you like a socialist. No, this is just how it should have been in the first place, before the labour market was flooded artificially by cheap foreign labour. Deal with it. Cry me a river. But anyway, I'm sorry to sound so unsympathetic about this, but I really am, right? And you got like, I love this. You can see how this really is ringing with the public, where 2,000 people are like, yeah, please let in foreign workers on a petition to the government. You see it's 1,976 signatures. Anyway, Boris, of course, collapsed instantly on this problem, as he does on every problem, when he should have stood firm on this and pointed out that this was the point of Brexit and this would be good for the British people, one of the reasons that you voted for your sovereignty back. Boris has ordered a quick, rapid fix to the UK's acute shortage of lorry drivers, which has unleashed a widespread supply chain disruption, including at petrol stations. Not true. 20 out of 1,200. 20.
But also, from what I saw, I wasn't able to confirm because I was working on the labour stuff, but the situation of a shortage of HGV drivers is throughout the EU as well.
Yeah, apparently in America and the European Union there is a shortage, but I haven't looked into it either. Let's just assume most charitable circumstance is it's an entirely British problem, just for the sake of the argument, right? Doesn't matter, right? But this is the point. This is the managerial vanguard perspective, where it's like, oh, the government must intervene. No. The society itself, the market itself, will find the solutions itself by raising wages and training more people who need good jobs to do those jobs. Bringing in foreign labour was the opposite of what the solution should have been. One person close to the situation said the Prime Minister had issued instructions to fix the escalating problem. Boris wants this solved, he said. Meanwhile, an ally of Johnson said Boris is completely fed up with bad headlines on this, and once it's sorted, he doesn't care about visa limits anymore. Bad headlines. Oh, the media are printing stuff that's bad. Who cares? They print stuff that's bad every goddamn day of the week. They printed nothing but bad things about you and you won a massive majority. Do the right thing and it doesn't matter what the media say. That's how this is. But as you can see, this is where the Conservatives are completely trapped by the media. They are bullied into doing everything, and Boris Johnson just doesn't have the stones to resist it. Priti Patel apparently was previously the strongest opponent of giving temporary visas to foreign HGV drivers. Again, right, reinforcing my idea that, yeah, but, I mean, Priti probably is pretty solid on this. It's just a shame she's trapped within this Conservative Party. Arguing that it would lead to a stampede of different industries demanding similar preferential treatment, which they undoubtedly will, and if there's one thing that there's a massive problem with the Conservative Party, it's corporate lobbying. Anyway, but with panic buying at petrol stations, Patel has dropped her resistance and now agrees with Transport Secretary Grant Shapps that the proposal is worth pursuing. Whitehall insiders said that any package will likely to set out a set of temporary measures lasting out to 6 months to see us through Christmas. So, again, just completely collapse in the face of media harassment of the government. And why are they doing this? You know why they're doing this. They're doing this because they want open borders. Metro reports then that means that there's going to be more than 10,000. I mean, 10,000 is virtually nothing in the way that our immigration is, but still 10,000 foreign workers will be temporarily permitted to work as lorry drivers in the food sector, tackle the supply crisis. And so this will go on until after Christmas. Retailers are basically complaining that they have to pay people more. But moving on, I find this to be the most interesting part. The UK is suspending competition laws. Is that wise? Is that necessary?
What does that mean?
That means, right, so to maintain a free market, you've got to make sure that corporations can't form a cartel, which means they're forbidden by law to share certain kinds of information with one another and essentially conspire against the customer. And the UK, the Conservative government is like, well, we'll suspend that. Officials said the move will make it easier for companies to share information and prioritise parts of the country most at need. What, the 20 stations that BP are slightly short of? That's not justified. Yeah, I don't think that's justified at all.
There was a reason this was passed to begin with.
Well, exactly. That there was. And it's for the exact sort of reason that social media is being dominated by Silicon Valley, to prevent this kind of cartel behaviour. So, an Alex Jones can't deplatform, Donald Trump can't get deplatformed in one day. But anyway, PRA chairman Brian Madison said that the BBC told the BBC that shortages were down to panic buying, pure and simple. It's just panic. There is no shortage of fuel. This doesn't need to be done, and allowing them to now conspire with one another against the customer was a really stupid decision, I think. But anyway, what do I know? I'm just a guy who hosts a podcast. But anyway, so I personally view this as an attack on the working class, as I posted on my Facebook page the other day. You can follow my new Facebook page, by the way. I set one up under my own name rather than the old brand. But this is why I think that basically the left and the Remainers and the business are begging for open borders, because this is an attack on the working class. The working class would have used this opportunity to get a bunch of new jobs, get a bunch of new qualifications, and buy themselves houses and get up, move up in the world. But no, they're going to provide limitless cheap labour, and that's not good. So anyway, let's see what the smear merchants on the continent had to say about this. For anyone who doesn't know what the London Economic is, it sounds like it might be something professional and prestigious, but it's actually a leftist rag that produces constant left-wing propaganda. So be aware. And so they went around the foreign papers and were like, oh well, in Spain, La Vanguardia, which I assume means the Vanguard, which I assume means they're communists, talks about KFC struggling to find chickens and having to close branches and McDonald's not serving milkshakes and soft drinks. Oh, McDonald's are always short on milkshakes. This is a perennial problem with them. But I haven't found that. In many shops and supermarkets, there isn't milk. Had a problem with milk in the supermarket recently, Callum?
Not personally.
No. And we've just been travelling as well. Nowhere appears to have had that. But I mean, who knows? Maybe in somewhere we haven't been, they have. The images of empty shelves have become usual, as if it was a boycotted Cuba. Does Britain feel like it's a boycotted Cuba at this point?
No, even under the initial panic buying from the pandemic, it wasn't a boycotted Cuba.
No.
It was like one shelf might be empty.
No.
Okay.
Lies and smear merchantry on the continent. Italy's Repubblica TV talked about Great Britain's post-Brexit apocalypse earlier this month.
Yeah, the idea this is Brexit.
No.
I know there was
tangentially
all these arguments about Brexit, positives, negatives, and all the ideas. Kind of went out the window when the pandemic started.
Yeah.
Because compared to that, it's negligible.
Yeah. And they said London, Manchester, Cambridge, and Birmingham. In all of these cities, there is a supply crisis that is hitting supermarkets and fast foods. That's not true. There isn't a supply crisis. Like, occasionally, you might have to get a different brand of whatever it is you're looking for, because maybe that brand isn't there. But I mean, I haven't actually experienced that. Although we did go to Coventry and I had to get oat milk that I wasn't a fan of. That was unpleasant.
Yeah.
Crisis, apocalypse.
You were very upset in the car.
I was. I mean, it's not the brand I like, but it might just be that supermarket just didn't stock the brand I happen to like anyway. There didn't seem to be a shortage. There was loads of oat milk. It was just the wrong oat milk, okay? But anyway, yeah, smear merchants on the continent are telling lies, and Britain is not in an apocalypse. Don't know why I have to say that. Moving on. Britain sucks, says a Frenchman. Thanks. In the New Statesman. So Fred Cyrier, probably it's pronounced, who's a British chef, a television chef in British TV, predicts a grim future for the UK restaurant industry. Oh no. When Brexit happened, all of these people went home or never came back. In 2016, we'd never made any provision to replace these people. So people leave, you don't replace them, and then COVID hits. There are no staff. It's just crazy. And when I think people don't, think it's a career, and it's labelled as low skilled. The thing is, it hasn't got a good reputation. Sadly, and that's a shame. Okay, well then.
Well, also you get treated like crap.
Well, yeah.
I can speak to this. Well, not necessarily treated like crap sometimes, but you have to do quite a lot of work that you don't have to if you had another job and getting similar pay. And then you look back at that and think, well, why would I work on weekends endlessly, have no holidays and endlessly be in this hot kitchen when I could just carry on doing what I'm doing?
And I could be a HGV driver.
Well, not even that. It's just the idea that the problems with chefing are purely immigration are not the case, I think.
But the point is, he's basically just like, look, this is all Brexit. Brexit's evil, and it's because I am dependent on cheap foreign labour. It's like, well, stop being dependent on cheap foreign labour. Anyway, and then finally you get the absolute cringe that I thought I'd share with you at the end of this segment. Someone called Munya has made a Brexit petrol shortage song. Brexit petrol shortage. That's what this is. There's no petrol shortage. So this is just all a lie. But this was going around all of the sort of like left-wing Remainer. This is like Scientists for EU shared this. Is where I found it. So they're lying, as usual. But loads of other ones shared it. So let's watch this and have a nice cringe.
All of you who voted Brexit? Is it all that you expected from a man who never pulls out correctly? And if I had one wish like Ray J, just fill my can and set me free. I'm trying to lose this belt unlike AJ's. Queuing for 7 hours, now I need to be. Since there's no WC, it's gonna be that tree. Ooh, they're so selfish. British people can't help it. Ooh, you know how they love a queue. Britain's panic buying. Petrol pumps are drying. Said Brexit would be fine, and turns out they were lying. Fuel is running real low. Need European blokes to come through in their HGVs.
Okay. I was expecting that to be worse, because
Really?
like the TikToks you've shown me throughout the years,
Sure, but I watched that with total cringe. But anyway,
it was bad. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. So basically, the Remainers are lying to you about how bad this is because they are annoyed that they lost the Brexit referendum and we're no longer a part.
If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can go over to lotuseaters.com to subscribe to get access to all the premium content we have.
The way the site works is that you have bronze, silver, and gold tier subscriptions. The bronze being £5 a month and allows you to get access to all of the premium content and leave comments on the articles. And we've got a new feature for the silver tier, and the silver and gold tier, which is having all of the premium articles accompanied by an audio track of a very smooth British voice reading, as you can see on the screen there. It's only an 11-minute listen, or it's however long it takes you to read the article. So that's for convenience. So that's for gold and silver members. And we've also got all of our regular great content, which we're all really proud of. I mean, the premium podcast that we have here is Progressing to Destruction, where that's just a lot of work, where it went into examining exactly what the consequences of mass immigration have been in Britain. And this was a great deal of effort to put together, and we didn't really want it being taken down from YouTube or anywhere else, so we're hosting it on our site, and we're very pleased with, well, what is, I suppose, a bit of a negative response, but not because of anything we've done, but because of the facts of the matter, it seems. But we also do various other premium podcasts, like The Contemplations, such as Are There Human Rights? Well, it depends on whose definition of what a human right you are using is. And of course, we do our regular history podcast called Epochs. This week's was The Sea People, the Terror of the Bronze Age. I really enjoyed doing this one because there was a great collapse about 3,000 years ago of the entire economy of the Eastern Mediterranean, and it seems that a bunch of piratical raiders may have been partially responsible for that, and possibly inspired the Trojan cycle from Homer. So we discussed that in that. And of course, we do our book club. For some reason, I decided that we'd highlight the George Orwell ones that we've been doing. So we've got his Road to Wigan Pier, and of course, the classic 1984. And I'll probably do Shooting an Elephant next. Have you ever read that?
Not heard of it.
It's really interesting. It's about George Orwell's time as a colonial administrator and police officer in Burma. And at one point in his narrative, an elephant goes on the rampage in a village and is killing people and destroying houses. So he has to go down and shoot it. And it is an absolutely fascinating look at the sort of colonial dynamics. The reason I haven't done a book club this month so far is because I'm currently going through the Critical Race Theory Bible. As you can see, it's 500 pages long, and I'm about 2/3 of the way through. And there are going to be many very in-depth book clubs coming out of that, because the things they believe are crazy and conservatives need to know about them.
But anyway, if you'd like access to all that premium content, please go over to lotuseaters.com to subscribe. Thank you.